Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
What a interesting time of the year to cover Cleveland sports in general, and somebody who is deeply intertwined with everything. And goodness gracious, Cam, we got Cam Justice on, and I just thought about it. You're doing Guardian stuff too, right? So it's just nonstop draft, number 2 overall pick, the Cavs in the playoffs, the Guardians starting their season. I'm so thankful I was able to get some free time with you today, but how you doing?
Good. I feel like it's been forever since I've been on here with you. I'm very excited. It's just, it's been absolutely insane. Even before this, right? It was like the MAC tournament and then NCAA tournament. And we had hoops and the state championships, and now all these like great local stories that we're trying to like. It has been nonstop, just trying to like get everything that I possibly can. But I'm one person, can't be everywhere, but we're trying to be.
Absolutely. All right, we'll start this conversation with the Browns here. Number 2 overall pick. And I think the big question with the Cleveland Browns is I think they're at a interesting place here, because at the end of 2023, they felt like they had the blueprint for what they wanted to being a Brown to be, right? What they wanted their locker room to be like. I think that 2023 is like their proof of concept of what kind of culture they're trying to bring to Cleveland here. 2024 was a mess for a number of reasons. Deshaun Watson, the things you had to do to try to make that work and how that affected things. Where do you see the Browns trying to go this offseason when it comes to that culture? And like, how important do you think it is that, Miles has this contract thing? Like, is he going to be able to contribute to the culture like the way you want it? Nick Chubb might be till after the draft that you bring him up. Is he going to be able to contribute the way that you want? Like, do you think the Browns have enough buy-in within the folks in that locker room to be able to maintain and then hopefully get back to that culture that they feel like they had there in 2023?
Yeah, I think there's enough guys on the team still that got that feel of that playoff win against the Jets. I think that was a huge shift in just kind of how this team felt about adversity and getting through things. And I think honestly, as much as last season was terrible, right, and things went really south, and obviously there were some repercussions of that we saw moving forward, but I think throughout that season you saw the culture that they were able to establish earlier allow them to, they didn't crumble, right? Like it wasn't when a team goes 3-14, you would expect all of this toxicity to be leaking out throughout the season and things to spiral. And it really didn't. At its core, they stayed kind of tight knit. They remained somewhat as positive as you can through that. Obviously, there was some discourse throughout the season here. There's small things, but it wasn't this giant pile of dysfunction as that season continued to go poorly. And I think that was kind of established, right? And then 2023 helped solidify that. That's something that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, since they got here in 2020, have been established. And we've talked about this all the time, the culture that they've been trying to establish. So I think they already had a really good foundation. And there are a lot of guys that are still here, right? They lost some free agent players that have been on the team, but for the most part, the core is still here. The guys that are going to be moving forward are guys that have experienced what it's supposed to feel like as Cleveland Browns. And so I do think that they have a lot of potential to get back there quickly. That then depends on the route they take moving forward to get out of the mess that they were in and found themselves in last season. And I think that they're taking as many steps as they can right now to do that. I think bringing Joe Flacco back does not hurt that in any way, shape, or form. He is a guy that provided this spark. The guys were having fun around him, and it was an unexpected kind of twist to the season, and a season filled with so much adversity, all those injuries, and they still were able to continue, turn it around, get some wins, and make a playoff push. That was huge for the Browns. And so to have Joe Flacco back here in whatever capacity, there's a quarterback competition, whatever capacity he's in, having him in that locker room is huge to get back on track. And I think then the steps that come after that, how are you going to navigate in revamping that offense in the way that you thought you were going to do it last year and it didn't work? I think the goal will be to get back to what they know works. The blocking schemes on that offensive line are probably going to look a lot more like they did in years past, not like last year. I think they're going to go back to the basics and get that on track. And that's what it's going to come down to. And I think that if they take those steps, and you're starting to see that play into, like, they understand what worked, and the players see them going back to what worked and what they've been calling, to what Kevin Stefanski calling plays. I think that's a big one too, that these guys were looking for and wanting last year. They do that. I don't think it's going to be hard for guys to buy into the culture being back to where they need to. And I think they've got enough core guys that understand that and will see the actions that the front office and coaching is taking in order to get that back, so that they can then in turn contribute in that capacity.
Yeah, because what you want to make sure is still there is that there are people who care about the program itself, right? And I think you saw a little bit of that when, Miles was threatening to leave, and Denzel and David didn't immediately fold and go, "Oh man, like, we might have to go too." It was like, "No, we're gonna get our guy back on track here, and we're gonna make sure everything's right." I think that is a good sign. That's not something that we're used to seeing. Usually it's like a free-for-all mercenary type thing in
Everyone
Cleveland.
goes then.
Yeah, where it's like there's really no care about the program. And I think that part does matter. I think that's something that you have to consider when it comes to bringing back Nick Chubb. But you kind of talked about the change of the run schemes, kind of back to what Kevin has done before. You bring back a familiar face and Joe Flacco. How do you think the Browns and Kevin Stefanski, who I don't think he wants to just go back to the old thing, right? Like he wants to bring back some of those principles, but like he also is conscious, like you got to evolve in the NFL. So how does he balance that? Or how do you think they're balancing that mindset of, hey, we got to get these guys back to doing what they were signed here and extended here to do, but we also want to add more layers to that? Is that a change in just the players that you bring in the future, the things you look for at certain positions like quarterback? Do you want a more athletic guy? Does that help you execute those principles in a more evolved way? How do you think Kevin AB look at it, where it's like you got this challenge of moving back to something familiar, but also you want to move forward because you don't want to be super familiar to everybody else?
Exactly. Teams have that tape, right? From years back. You can't go and replicate an entire season. You do have to evolve. I think what we'll be telling, it's hard to say right now, like an exact answer, because I think that's going to come with how they approach this draft. Who they take at number 2, to me, indicates everything. It indicates if their philosophy has changed at all. It indicates the pressure that they feel, and how they're going to navigate with the season. Is this a season in which they feel like they're right there and they just need a couple key pieces? Or is it, we really need to restructure all of this? I think that number 2 pick, if their philosophy, the Cleveland Browns philosophy, I feel like over the past, in this era, and under the tenure of Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, and this regime right now, I think has been very steadfast. It's been best player available in the draft. You're not married to a specific position. Just because somebody thinks that you need it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to take it. You're going to take what works best for the entire roster and who the best player is across the board. Now, obviously, some positions have greater value to every team. But I think that if we see the Browns take a guy like, we'll say, Travis Hunter, I think that is more aligned with their philosophy. And that, to me, indicates that they're going to move forward with the idea that they aren't that far off and they don't need to shift too far out of what they're doing, but they can bring in new pieces to elevate the offense, to elevate the things that they're trying to do. And I think it involves the evolution that they're looking for then would become what they can do with specific players, less of what they're going to have to change as a whole. If you bring in a quarterback at 2, I think that changes, because everything will change around that quarterback. Because if you're taking a quarterback at 2, that quarterback is playing.
Mm-hmm.
And,
absolutely.
And that quarterback is starting, and it's starting quick. And so to do that, how do you, like, you would have to then create the offense, really cater it to them to make sure that they are at the best of their ability to get out there and create success, because they've been adamant about this is not a rebuild. This is like retweaking. They're trying to not go full rebuild. And I think if the plan was for it to be a full rebuild, Myles Garrett would not have been, money aside. Obviously money talks and that contract is hard to deny, but I don't think it would have been as easy as it was, and it like handled the way that it was with Myles so quickly. I thought that was going to be a drawn out process. If it was beyond the money thing, I think it would have been. I think that he has a good idea that this is not considered a rebuild. And so I think you start to shift towards that a little bit more if you're taking quarterback at 2. So those answers to me come with the draft and who they take and what that board looks like and how they move even after 2. Are they moving up to take somebody? Are they moving back? What positions are they looking for? Are they going heavy on the offensive side? They obviously have not issues, but holes to fill too on the defensive side. So how much do they value taking a linebacker, taking an edge, taking a DB that's not, maybe if Travis Hunter wants to play both, but they love drafting corners. And so where do they value? I'm very curious. I think that answers a lot of questions to me about what this season is supposed to mean for this organization. And it really does, to me, start with the draft. All these free agent moves help kind of shape the idea, but I can't get a full grasp until I see what they do at 2. Because once we see 2, I think to me that indicates exactly where this Browns organization believes themselves to be and what that path moving forward to get out of that slump that they were in last year, what that it's going to look like, how their philosophy maybe shifts or remains the same.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I've been really interested to ask you, because I think of all the people who have covered the Browns are in the building in Berea, you have your series where you actually get to talk and understand and know the kind of personalities that populate that locker room and the personalities of the people who thrive in the Cleveland Browns locker room, and work there. And it's not a monolithic thing, right? There's not one Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry personality type, right, that works, but there is consensus between the folks that you see, oh, they come to Cleveland, okay, this guy's going to be fine here, he fits what they're trying to do. When you look at these prospects from the outside looking in, especially the quarterbacks in this class and anybody you would consider taking it to, these are cultural defining choices, right? Who you draft to be the next quarterback, who you draft at 2, these are supposed to be really important guys. When you look at the personalities from the outside looking in, who do you see? You think to yourself, oh yeah, that guy works here, right? Is there anybody like that when you look at those 2 classes of prospects?
Yes, it's the guy like Travis Hunter. I mean, I want to tell myself to a player that doesn't end up in Cleveland, who's to say, but I think that he is a solid fit across the board, not just skill wise, not just in position of need or area of need for the Browns, but as a person. I think the personality that I've seen in interviews and these press conferences and in these moments with him, I think that he is a Cleveland Brown. And I think that the Browns, through their dinners that they had and meetings with him, the workouts with him, saw that too. I think that he is a great fit, right? In terms of getting along with guys and just being, because he's not super flashy. He'll speak his mind. He said I want to play both, and there's no football for me if I'm not playing both. So he is he's vocal. He's very straightforward with what he wants to get across. But I think on what I've been able to see of him, feels a little bit more subdued. He's relaxed, a little chill, and I think that bodes so well in the Browns locker room. There's so many guys in there that are just the quieter, not quiet, but quieter personalities. They like to leave it on the field. They like to lead in that capacity. And it's more about football. Everything's about football and what the product on the field. And then their personality kind of shows and comes out. And I think that he would fit in pretty great. There's some flashy guys, obviously, in Cleveland, and everyone's different. Everybody has a different personality. But for the most part, you in that locker room, and it's not what you would expect, I think, a lot of times from an NFL locker room. There's not this overarching ego driven place. There's very normal, chill dudes. And I think that Travis Hunter to me feels like a guy who would enter this league and be a pretty normal guy. He would be a star. He would be successful, I feel, but I don't think that it would show in terms of the personality that we would see in media, that we would see among them. And I think that he would kind of be like a student of these guys. He would want to listen, he'd want to learn. And I think that's a big part too. So for me, I feel like that kind of personality, he has that. And what I've seen, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've met Travis Hunter and sat down with him and had dinner with him like the Browns brass did. But what I've been able to glean from that kind of stuff, I think that's he feels like a fit. There's other guys too. Like, I mean, we were talking like Abdul Carter is another guy that felt like he has like a lot in common, just a very normal guy, has a lot in common with like Kevin Stefanski and that background and like the things that they shared. So I think there's a lot of guys in this draft class that kind of fit that mold of just, now I want to say blue collar because they're not blue collar. Like that's that's what people like to cling to here. And that is, you know, a good description for a lot of these guys. But I think it's more just relatable, reachable. I think that goes a long way in Cleveland. And I think that those personalities are more
it's like a focus of like, hey, I want you to talk about what I do on the field, what my craft is. And I think that's something you get. Like Jerry Jeudy, I thought him getting out of Denver and coming to Cleveland was perfect for him because we're not going to care about all the other stuff in Cleveland, right? Like we're like, okay, well, what do you do on the football field? And that's the most important thing in Cleveland, I think. And I think that's like what you have to look for. Some guys, like they kind of care about the other stuff a little bit more. They can still be very good, but that's something that you have to kind of understand. Like, hey, is that guy going to cause tension? Because like, you know, like you might get beef with certain people in the locker room. They feel like you trying to show out or, you know, drive up hype or something like that. Like that's not really what we do here. So yeah, I think Travis, once he said, I like football and fishing, right? I was like, well, sir, welcome to Cleveland.
Welcome to Cleveland.
Right? There's a lot of football and there's a lot of fishing.
I think Jerry Jeudy was like the perfect example that you just brought there. I mean, throughout that stretch of losses for the Browns, right? I think Jerry Jeudy was so vocal about he was very vocal about the disappointment. He didn't shy away from it. So like again, very outspoken and he was strong with how he was feeling, but he never gave up. He wasn't out there like he's not going to quit. He was frustrated. You could see him on the sidelines like in the games that he wasn't being targeted. He's frustrated. Get me the ball. I'm right here. I'm open. Like things like that. But it wasn't ever to the detriment of the team. It wasn't ever giving up. It wasn't the parade crazy that was
like cryptic
messages that
right?
Love to do. No, exactly.
Yeah, or saying stuff like that's like undercutting the culture of the team out there. Yeah.
He was very much like, hey, we are not doing what we need. We need to win. We need to focus on winning. I'm not satisfied with this, but it wasn't like he didn't tear anybody down. He took accountability himself, even on games that he did not have to. He'd have, you know, a good game himself. Wouldn't matter because at the end of the day, he cared, you know, reaching career milestones. You try to talk to him about it. He's like, yeah, I mean, it's fine, but we didn't win. So what? Doesn't matter. And that's like, to me, is the kind of guy that works really well for Cleveland because you've got to be able to get through even in a good season. Like 2023 was a good season. They went to the playoffs. And even then, look at what it took to get there. Look at the adversity. You have to be able to do that in Cleveland because the second you give up is the second that the fan base gives up on you too. And then you're dealing with two things. You're dealing with what's happening on the football field and you're dealing with outside noise. You have to be able to navigate that. And I think that is a crucial part of the personality type that the Browns, should be looking at when they're draft prospects.
Last question, real quick, because we don't have too much time to elaborate here. Between these three quarterbacks, you tell me who you think is the more of the personality fit for the Browns.
Okay.
Just personality alone. Okay. Will Howard, Jalen Milroe, Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, you went honest opinion, like personality alone, I think it's probably Will Howard. Like, I mean, he's a Buckeye. He knows Ohio. Like that just like ingrained. I think if I was going 1, 2, 3, I would say Howard, Milroe, then Shedeur. Not to say that Shedeur Sanders could not fit into Cleveland, but he is very confident in himself and very outspoken. And I think that if things were not going well, he would never shy away from who he is. And he's like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate that about him, is that the confidence and the dedication to self. I think that's huge. Like you don't want to get away from who you are as a person because that makes you the player that you are. I think that's really important to Shedeur Sanders. I do think, though, that in the face of adversity, the outside noise would probably be a little heavier towards him. because he is who he is and he is vocal. And I don't think that he would stop being who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could open the door to some controversy on
Some
the outside noise. Yes. Like on the outside, I think the Browns would be fine. I mean, they would navigate that very well. I could see that being something that the fan base would have to navigate. And I don't know that would maybe go over well all the time. Now, that being said, I think he's a great talent. So it's not as if the Browns would be suffering in any capacity with Shedeur Sanders on their team. I just think personality type and an overall picture, I think it's probably Will Howard, just because, and I probably just say that because the Ohio ties and what we've seen from him. But that is not comparing him to Shedeur Sanders talent-wise on the field. I want to make that very clear for anyone who's listening. Relax before you even get started. That is not what I'm saying.
Yep. Awesome. That's the always awesome Cam Justice. If you want to hear her talk about the Cavs, well, join me on my Cavs channel as we talk about the Cavs there, and make sure you follow her, Cammy Justice, on Twitter. She does stuff for News 5, your Next Man Up series. Look, they put that up in the stadium, so y'all need to make sure y'all check that out. And, you got your Mo Eat series. You're doing, who are you trying to scope out for your next food series?
Yeah, I don't know. We got to figure that out. Mo's a free agent, so we got to see how that shapes out. But hopefully we have something to follow it up with this season, whether it's with Mo if he's back or somebody else.
I'm gonna put it out there right now. Let's pitch it right now. Cam and Travis fishing right there. That's a whole podcast done on a boat, while you're fishing. I feel like that hasn't really been done in the NFL space before. So,
I'll give you the credit if we make this happen.
Definitely. But appreciate you guys for watching. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.